Hi, this is Ed McCarthy, CEO of Echelon Performance. Our guest today on Coaching Sidebar is the founder and CEO of LeadX, an organization with a mission to spark the next 100 million leaders through the use of AI-powered leadership coaching. He is also the host of the LeadX Leadership Podcast, a Forbes columnist. He just did a great article, I thought, on a little organization called Echelon Performance. He's a New York Times bestselling author of 9 books, including 15 Secrets Successful People Know About Time Management, and the latest book, Great Leaders Have No Rules, Contrarian Leadership Principles to Transform Your Team and Business. Our guest is Kevin. Welcome to the show, Kevin.
Ed, thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to the chat.
It's great to see you again. We've been spending a lot of time together over the last 30 days or so, but I always find our conversations to be really insightful because you really bring what I consider to be a very fresh approach to the topics of leadership, coaching, development, and things like that. So I'm glad you could be with us. And I want to dive right in. And I just sort of alluded to this. I find your voice, there are so many voices out there. You know, if you just spend 20 minutes on LinkedIn, you can be inundated with ideas and thoughts and philosophies around leadership. And I find your voice out there to be very unique. Specifically, your latest book, 2019, The Great Leaders Have No Rules. You make there are 2 key thoughts in there that I'm hoping we can spend a little bit of time on now. The first one is, and if I'm getting this wrong, correct me, but you call leadership a superpower. Could you just expand on that a little bit? Because I'm a little bit afraid I don't have that superpower. And I just want you to maybe explain it a little bit better.
Yeah, it's great. I think that I truly, everyone will hear it in my voice. I mean, I am a geek when it comes to leadership. I think leadership is a superpower. You know, we look to Marvel movies and things to see superheroes out there, to see heroes and to bring them into our world. And I think leadership, it's got the potential anyway to bring lots of superheroes to life every day around the world. If you think about what is leadership, there's fancy definitions out there. I've got a fancy definition out there. But if you boil it down to one word, all the gurus out there, John Maxwell, Blanchard, Covey, others, they say it's about persuasion. So if we go with that, you think about the power of self-leadership. You know, if I can use that power to get myself, off of the couch and onto the treadmill or, with the weight set, I can transform my health. If I can use my superpower of influence, leadership, to lead others, including my teenagers, my neighbors, my colleagues at work, I can transform families. I can transform individual happiness and energy. If I can bring that ability to influence organizations, whether that's the company I work for, the church or synagogue I might be a part of, the nonprofit organizations, well, now we can impact lives at scale. So I always say, talk about contrarian. For a while it was, hey, you have to have a title to be a leader. You need to have authority. And then people got, sort of progressive and said, no. You don't need a title. You can choose to be a leader. I say leadership is not a choice. We're leading whether we want to be or not. If leadership is influence, we lead people by what we say, but also we influence people when we're silent. We lead people by what we do. And we're also sending signals when we do nothing. And so we're leading one way or another. We're influencing whether we want to be or not. So I say everybody's a leader. The secret is to lead with intent, self-leadership, leading others, and leading an organization.
That is really powerful. How old were you when you had the aha that just because somebody is the CEO doesn't necessarily make them the best leader in an organization? To your input, influence can go horizontally.
Yeah.
So, when did you start to have these thoughts around leadership and as the ability to influence and not necessarily assigned to a role in an organization?
Yeah. Well, Ed, I think I'm a slow learner. So, I was probably until I was 40, I really didn't think about leadership that much. I was an entrepreneur and I was about making money and growing and sales. And it's embarrassing given how much I geek out about it now, but it just wasn't really on my mind. And then I I got lucky, fell into some relationships with some great mentors, some great leaders who started to teach me about the behaviors that drive employee engagement, that drive great cultures. And these are behaviors that, first of all, it was much more about what frontline managers are doing, not so much what the CEO is doing. So right there, it's like, aha, it isn't about title. It isn't about span of control or power. And I started to learn that emotions are contagious. And so even if we don't lead anybody, again, I saw, if people around you are engaged at work, you're more likely to be engaged at work. If I'm engaged at work, Ed's more likely to be engaged at work. So this idea that it's really a grassroots phenomena in an organization and that emotions are contagious kind of just lit me up. Like, okay, this is something that's accessible or should be accessible to everyone.
Yeah, that's really, you said the word as I was thinking it. You said contagious, and I was thinking it's almost like a contagion, right?
Right.
This idea that I'm getting things done, that there's this energy around a leader that's almost tangible, isn't there?
Yeah. And again, it goes back to that thing where you see the correlations. If the manager is not engaged at work, it's extremely unlikely that her direct reports are going to be engaged at work. And you see this even again, to me, it's just life. It's not work, and life's just life. And people will mimic the behaviors. And so just as if, you grow up in a family where, your parents are smokers, you're more likely to be a smoker. Right. If all of a sudden I drop 10 pounds, which I actually have done this year, Ed, I dropped 10 pounds this year.
Nice.
People around me are more likely to lose weight as well. Like that's why the crazy thing, even when we're not trying to influence people, the energy that people have at work, especially your direct manager, your boss, it's contagious. It's inevitable that it's going to wear off on you for good or for worse.
Yeah. I want to talk about that in a little bit because I want to dive deeper into your work at LeadX and the philosophy behind that movement as well, because I think it's incredibly powerful. We'll dive into it in a second, but I want to stay with the book just for a second because there's so much in there. And if you're watching this and you haven't read the book, please, you go on Amazon, wherever the books are sold. It is absolutely worth the time and energy to get another voice in your head with regard to the things that we're talking about around leadership. But there are so many things that I was going through the book and I was highlighting, like, this is not what I learned in my emerging leaders program or my new manager program. Things like, you say do play favorites instead of don't play favorites. You say don't have an open door policy instead of do have an open door policy. That might hit people's ears a little funny. Can you help us understand a little bit better?
Yeah, well, exactly as you introed it. I mean, I was raised, in the professional world by leaders who would tell me things like, leadership is acting. You never want to get close to your people in case you have to fire them. You never want to be negative because you don't want them to go look for a new job on the weekends. All these old rules. And I've learned, for great workplaces, you pretty much want to spin all of that, upside down. Something simple about, don't have an open door policy. It's a good example where the intent back when that phrase and that practice started, it was well intended. It was a command and control structure. So let's improve the flow of communication. Everybody keeps their doors open. We can just get information fast. And it's okay to ask the boss or even your boss's boss, right? Skip levels. All well intended. But now we've come into a world where most of us have a hard time getting deep work done, strategic work done, because everybody's constantly knocking on that door. Hey, got a minute? And Ed, they're always lying. It's never a minute. It's always 15 minutes, 30 minutes.
I learned that the hard way. Yeah, it was wait, you said 1 minute.
Right. And in this hybrid world, the digital version of Got a Minute, it's when you get messaged on Teams or on Slack, right? It's not a scheduled meeting. It's not your weekly one-on-one. It's something that's inbound. And suddenly someone's saying, hey, what I'm dealing with is a more important priority than what you're working on right now. And so we've got this kind of overwhelm where we can't get our focused work done, but also it can be insidious. Every time I say, yes, come on in, Ed, I'm going to solve that problem for you, all that kind of stuff. We're basically teaching people to reverse delegate, right? And you have to ask yourself, if I'm getting buried in Gotta Minutes, did I hire the wrong people? Are they not able to do the job? And maybe they're good people. I did an okay job hiring. Okay. Well, do they not understand the freedom they have to make decisions, to solve problems, to make mistakes? Do they need more training? Do they need more tools? So the whole idea of close your open door policy, it's not to say stiff arm everyone and don't help people, but it's like, rather than having an open door policy, can you move to say office hours? And it's like, hey, everybody, yes, I care about communication. I care about speed of problem solving, et cetera. I want to be accessible, but that means hit me up between 4 and 5 p.m. every single day. Or Fridays, I have an open door policy, not Monday through Thursday. Or we've got so many interruptions. Let's do more structured one-on-ones every Monday and try to hold on to things and bring them into the one-on-one. So there's lots of better ways to accomplish the original goals than this idea of just open door policy.
Yeah, I think you're touching on one of the things that a lot of new managers in particular tend to struggle with, because they want to be the problem solver, right? They want their team to come to them with issues and challenges.
It feels great. At every time, I feel important. Awesome. I feel like I did my day's work. Yeah. And let's face it, especially for those new managers, I was probably promoted because I was a great individual contributor. So I know how to solve. I know how to do their job. You talk about it in your world time, like, is someone a sales manager or a super rep? Like, there's a big difference. There's a huge difference, right? It's a different skill set. Right. Great managers need to know how to coach skills. Great representatives need to execute those skills. Right. So it's a different balance. But I had a friend who used to call it the porcupine problem, because he was a manager and he used to say that people had their problems, which were like little porcupines, and they would walk by his office and just throw the porcupine in, and that was his porcupine. And I'm like, yeah, that's a great visual, because sometimes it feels like you're catching a porcupine. Like, I don't want this thing. Like, exactly.
All right. My guest today is Kevin Kruse. We could talk. I could talk forever with Kevin. We're going to take a quick break. Kevin, you want to stick around for round 2?
Perfect.
All right. We'll be back in the next video, next edition of Coaching Sidebar, to talk more with Kevin Kruse.